Good morning, Composition 2 students. This is week 6, and we are doing it on the Thursday instead of the Tuesday. Things got kind of backed up and mixed up this week, but I think everything is straightened out. A couple days ago, I had a problem with my microphone, but I think it was really too loud and not clear, but I'm hoping that this version is a better one. It's really time consuming to deal with technical difficulties, but they happen. So you submitted your assignments and your homework. October 1st was the last day for that. So I'm going through the assignments. I have to say I've read probably most of one of the classes I've already read, and they are quite interesting, and most students got the right idea. One of the things that I mentioned, and I'm going to repeat it today, is that I don't want you just to give me plain information, but to work a perspective and an argument into what you're trying to say. So make a point. It doesn't really have to develop into some sort of serious debate or anything. It just needs to be sort of some way of looking at something that's just not as conventional. So lots of people put a twist, like I did with the avocado. It's a superfood, it's healthy, it's delicious, it's popular. These are all positive things that people focus on. Obviously, the entire food industry is quite envious of the branding of the avocado. Broccoli is super jealous of avocado, but sometimes the adverse environmental effects, the effects on, trying to produce more as the demand increases and the amount of money people get paid, all these things behind the scenes don't get talked about. So that's just one thing that is involved in critical thinking. It's not just to take the information on the surface, but to dig a little bit deeper and look at the relationships and the consequences of things that are happening, and then to write about them. That's what our class is about. Don't mind what's on the board behind me. That is from the British and American culture class, so just ignore that for today. What we're going to focus on today is moving forward past the food thing, but I would like to draw your attention to something as an example that's at the end of that chapter. At the end of chapter 2, unit 2, where we were talking about exotic food. I had you write about the origin of food, so don't worry, this was not your topic, but this is just a really short sample paragraph. And as I said, I would like you to write longer pieces. But anyway, here's a really tightly organized example of a description of an exotic food, which I had not heard of before. So the title of the paragraph on page 49 is "A Specialty in My Country." This is what the writer has written. "The people in my country make a special dish from the ezote flower, which is delicious to eat. The flower grows on top of a beautiful tree. You can see these trees in the gardens of houses. You can also buy ezote flowers in the market. The best time for the flower is in the summer. From the flowers, we make a special dish that we eat almost every week in the summer. To prepare this dish, we boil the petals of the flower in water with garlic and salt. Then we take out the petals and add them to beaten eggs. We fry this mixture like an omelet. When it is ready, we eat it with a tomato sauce. The ezote flower is a special flower in my country." Okay, so, that's a very simple topic sentence and concluding sentence, just special. Although they do mention the fact that it's delicious. So special because it's delicious. And the supporting sentences go through there. There's a few questions asking what the topic sentence is and what the supporting sentences are, and just to number them. This is a good example of something that will be asked on the exam. This is not your homework for today, but reading a short paragraph like this and breaking down the parts and how they're connected will be on the exam. Additionally, as we get to know paragraphs and criticize them more, I'm going to intentionally make mistakes for you to find. But of course, there's no real mistakes, not any critical ones in this paragraph, because it's an example written by a student that's supposed to show you what good organization looks like. So you have, 9 supporting sentences within the space of that paragraph. So you would just have to number them off. And if you got them all, sometimes there's a sentence that doesn't belong there because it's off topic. For example, the flower grows on top of a beautiful tree. You can see these trees in the gardens of houses. You can also buy Isote flowers in the market. Does that sentence really belong there? That's something that is sort of at the discretion. When you're writing a really short paragraph, saying where you can buy them and the best time for the flower, it's not really necessary for you to discuss that if the focus of the paragraph is on the flower and how delicious it is. Giving instructions on where to buy them and everything is starting to loosen up the paragraph and getting off the topic of what the focus is. There's not a special place to buy these flowers. It's just in the market. So that might be a sentence if you were looking to be more concise or to remove a bit of unnecessary length or repetition, then you might take that out. It's a matter of coherence or being concise. Not that bad though. But certainly that of all the sentences, that one sort of sticks out a little bit as not necessarily having to be there. And when I was a junior and a senior in my undergraduate career, that was one of the things my professors always did. Certain sentences they said, does this have to be here? They didn't even say take it out. They just said, does this need to be here? And if it doesn't need to be here, you know what to do with it. So there was just a question mark and then that question. And I knew what their opinion was. So you should take that. You should take that perspective too when you're reading over your paragraph and you read it over. Oh, this is all good. This fits in neatly, and this one is not. It's not as effective and it's not as closely connected as my other points. Does it do anything? Does it need to be said? Maybe not. And if I take it out and the paragraph flows just as nicely without it, all you have to do is delete it, and then you make an improvement. So our topic for this week. And so that's why I brought your attention to that exercise there, because you don't have to do that. I'm just giving you an example. When you study for this class, some students are like, what should I study? Do I need to memorize all the topics? You don't. You need to be familiar with the topics, because I'm not going to grab topics from the farthest corners of the universe that you've never heard of before. They're probably going to be related to things that we've discussed somewhat that are going to include traditions, which we're getting into here, celebrations, special days, food. Later, we're going to do environment and challenges and stuff like that. So the topics are going to be in that field. So, having vocabulary and having familiarity with the topic will be a benefit, but you don't need to really memorize stuff so much as you need to practice doing stuff like this, like on page 49, answering those 4 questions after you read a paragraph. Not for homework though. I'm sure I'm going to get an email saying, is it for homework? It's not. Okay. Starting on page 54, we have celebrations and special days. Now, there's so many different cultures in the world. There's endless numbers of celebrations and holidays. This particular holiday that they focus on is called Tihar. And I'm not sure I pronounced that right, but I did have a student once who could, and I forget. He taught me how to say it, and I forget. I think he was from Bangladesh. But anyway, Tihar, we'll say, is called the Festival of Lights. It's celebrated by Hindus in Nepal, and which is not a festival that's celebrated in Bangladesh. Let me be clear, because their religion is Islam. But they're certainly familiar with a lot of the Indian festivals and cultures and the names for things. Their cultures go back thousands of years. So Nepal is this small country between India and China. It has a population of 23 million people, most of whom are Hindu. The festival of Tihar, or Tihar, takes place in late autumn and lasts for 5 days. This festival is also called the Festival of Lights. It is a time when all the houses light oil lamps and the country is full of lights and decorations. During Tihar, the people worship different animals such as the crow, the dog, and the cow. The people also worship their brothers and sisters and the goddess of wealth, Lakshmi. That's the first paragraph there. It's a very descriptive introductory paragraph, which basically summarizes everything that's coming. Now, as I've said to you, we're only doing short one-page things. And then the next assignment you do, which I'm going to assign to you again today, is the same thing. People are asking me, 250 words, one page, professor, I did 300 words on one page, or 250 words is short of one page. I'm just giving you a guideline. I don't want you to write 2 pages, and I don't want you to write half a page. And I don't want you to write 500 words or 150. So just use it as a guideline. The font size should be 10 or 12 point font. And if you double space it, you'll get down to the bottom of the page easily. If you single space it, you could probably get 400 words on a page. Just make sure that it's not too small and too tight, because I have good eyes, but after looking at 65 of these things, it hurts my eyes. So don't make the font super small. Just use 10 or 12 point fonts and leave a little bit of spacing in between so that I can read it easily. That's all I want. So around 250, 300 words and about 1 page in length. Otherwise, don't worry about being perfect. It doesn't have to be super close. This means that you probably don't need an introductory paragraph. You're just doing one paragraph. You could do a short paragraph at the beginning and then get into your point. So there's those 2 options there. Most of my students, I just suggest, don't describe too much. Get to the point at the beginning so you have a topic sentence. If you don't do that, you have to do what they did and sort of do your introduction, and then you're going to start into whatever the purpose of the paper is. In this case, they're just doing basically details. As I said, it's National Geographic. They don't have really an agenda here. They're not trying to get you to dislike or like the Festival of Lights. They're just trying to, expand your knowledge. As I said, I would like you to go a little bit beyond that, because I want to know what you think. I want you to analyze the information, not just present it. So rather than just giving a lot of description like that for the first, 5, 6 sentences, I think it's better for you to just work your description into the support, right? So as you explain, the details are going to be connected to your point. So let me continue here. I'm not going to read the whole article. You can read it yourself. As usual, the following questions on the next few pages are useful, but they are also not, I'm not asking you to do the first couple of pages for homework. So you do need to read the article, because I would like you to do, as before, the reading comprehension. Don't worry about the vocabulary building part. If you do that, that's fine. But it's page 60 and 61, okay? And some students decided not to do the discussion. I know in class we would do the discussion together. We don't have that luxury, so you have to pretend that you're having a one-sided discussion. So you just make your points, and there aren't really counterpoints, but present your points as if you were getting ready to discuss something, almost like you were going to have a debate. So look at the questions in discussion, say, well, this is what I think about this. These are various opinions, and I choose this one, and then write the points that support your opinion. Okay? So that's how you handle the discussion questions. Don't skip them. A few students did. So you have the comprehension, looking for main ideas. looking for details, which is just checking to see if you've read the material. Write the discussion questions in full sentences with support, and the same thing with critical thinking. Those questions are going to be the hardest ones on the exam. So one sentence answers are not good enough. You're going to get 3 points or 4 points for critical thinking questions, and 2 or 3 for discussion. So if you just say, yes, that's exactly what I think, that's 0. Okay? You have to say, that's what I think because when I heard about this, or this thing happened, or for example, you have to present some evidence. If you don't do that, you're not going to get the points on the question. Okay? So most of you need to take those sets of questions, discussion and critical thinking, more seriously. On the homework, I let it go this time, but the next round of homework, I am going to make notes of the effectiveness of your answers, because if I don't tell you that you're not doing it right, you're going to get a lower score in the exam. So there has to be some feedback on that. But that's the general feedback. Don't skip the discussion, and make sure when you do those discussion and critical thinking questions, multiple full sentences that explain what your position is on the question. It gives examples or presents a position, like in a debate. Okay? You're taking one side. This is what it should be like because of these reasons. Okay? So for next class, for next week, which would be our Tuesday and Thursday class, I would like you to do page 60 and page 61. Ignore the vocabulary building. It's better for you just to type it up on your computer rather than taking a picture of it. You can write it in your book if you want. Some people are sending me PDFs. If you want to do that, I suppose it's fine. It's not as easy to read though. And I know all the questions because I have my own book. So you can just type them up. Whatever's easier, but just make sure I can see your writing and you're very neat when you write your answers. The discussion and critical thinking questions actually don't leave you any space in the book. So really, the best thing to do is open up your word processor, type all your answers. You don't have to type the questions. Do the usual thing, student number, tag the email, homework, pages 60, 61, composition 2, and email me the doc file, please. Okay, so that is the homework for next week. I'm going to give you, although I'm still processing and looking at your origin of food assignments, we do not have a midterm in this class. So you don't have to be worried about that. But I do want to sneak in an assignment before the midterm. And then during the midterm, I won't give you any homework in this class and you'll be able to focus on other things. But before we get there, I would like one more assignment from you so I can see, I can compare the first and the second one and give you your feedback and let you know, if you're improving or if you made mistakes in certain things. It's having one writing sample is not usually enough. So this would be round 2. And this is due in 2 weeks though, not next week. The dates will be written on the website as usual. So double check if you didn't listen carefully. You can double check the dates. Sometimes I mess up the dates, but I'll be careful this time. So 2 weeks from now, from this week, I would like you to write about a celebration or holiday of your choice. On page 65, it actually asks you to write a paragraph, and there's a whole sequence there, okay? So this is what I want you to do. I want you to do page 65 because really the first paragraph, I just gave you the topic and said, go, write a paragraph. This is the general format. Let's see how you can write. But you may have encountered some problems without having very much structure. So I think it's a good idea just to go through a little bit of a process to help you organize and connect your writing, because that might have been one of your issues. As I said, I haven't seen every paper yet, so this is preempting possible problems. So when you wrote your paragraph, if some things were disconnected, One of the things that happens is that you're writing and you've got ideas and you're making sentences, and then you start to connect to the previous sentence, and you sort of drift away from what your main purpose is. And you may come back to it too. But at the end of the paragraph, especially if you don't check it or you haven't made a plan in advance to keep you on the topic, keep you close to the topic, then it's easy for that to do. It's easy for that to happen, excuse me. It's called losing your train of thought if you're speaking. It's just you're talking about certain thing and you're focusing on it, and then you start telling a story or somebody mentions something interesting, and then you just end up, the conversation goes in a different direction. But you can't do that in a paragraph. You might do that if you're doing in creative writing, but you still have to you got to remember whether you're doing creative writing or you're texting or you're writing essays or letters, you always have to keep everybody with you. If you suddenly change topics or you drift too far, people are confused. And then, your message becomes useless. Look at all the famous people these days who are mumbling and talking about random things, and people I can't understand. These things contradict each other. They're arguing with themselves and saying random things, and it's really confusing to everyone. And we don't know what to think when, for example, our leadership gives us multiple messages that don't seem to be related to the important things that we want to know. So some of our world leaders should probably come back to composition 2 and practice again. So this is what it does. It asks you to choose a topic, which is among celebrating New Year or another holiday or a special dinner, okay? Now, I'm just going to say the special dinner has to be related to a festival or event. You can't just talk about, I made dinner for my boyfriend or my girlfriend, right? Or I made dinner for my parents on Parents' Day. I wanted to involve all the sorts of things that I shouldn't say a real holiday, a big holiday, I guess is a better word, something that has the elements, right? The fashion, the rituals, the ceremonies, the family events, the food, the music, the entertainment, the history, all kinds of stuff, the songs, right? The dancing. The more of these things generally, the better they are, the more cohesive they are, the more impressive each one of these things and the number of things and how they connect to each other usually is an indication of how successful a festival will be. If you just have a festival that's fantastic food and nothing else, people come and eat and they go home. But if it involves all kinds of different activities, people might end up staying there for days, right? The biggest festivals in the world, like Carnival, are not a single day. They have parades and food and drink and dancing and makeup and culture and singing and history and stories and all the rest. Same thing with Oktoberfest. Those are both enormous festivals that have normally, without coronavirus, have millions of people. So I wanted you to take one of these things, any holiday you want. It can be even a Korean one. I'm going to allow that this time. But you really have to use English words and use English sources, like I said. And if you use a Korean word like chesa, then you have to, at least at the bottom, translate it, or in brackets say, bowing ceremony or something. You have to allow somebody who's not fluent in Korean to understand what you're saying. So obviously, if you say kimchi, you don't have to say that's fermented cabbage, for example. But a lot of Korean vocabulary that's specific to holidays would need translation. Songpyeon, you could just describe it as a soft rice cake with some sweet filling, or something like that. But you got to do something, okay? Same thing if you're doing a festival from another country. If you're talking about Germany and you're talking about types of beer, and you say Dunkelweizen, some people have no idea what that is. It's dark wheat ale, and maybe you should include that so the person can understand that they're actually talking about drinking beer, not talking about, I don't know, a boat going down the river. Who knows? So when you use words that are specifically not English, that are not familiar in the English language, provide a short explanation of it. But otherwise, just go into the different facets, right? Go into describe the different elements of it. And again, like most of you did so well with the origin of food. Don't just say coffee bean came from Ethiopia and they accidentally dropped it in the fire. And then some people started smelling it and thinking it smelled great. And then they threw it in some hot water and they drank it. And now, it spread around Africa and the Middle East, and eventually it came through trade in the Mediterranean. It ended up in Europe, and now it's all over the world. That's just a summary. There's no criticism or analysis of what the process was. So don't just do that description. Add something critical to it. So I'll just do my favorite one. Christmas is my favorite holiday. But there's so many elements of Christmas that I probably can't talk about the whole thing. So if I was going to talk to you about Christmas, I would have to talk about perhaps, modern day Christmas and what that looks like and what that means. I might decide to talk about, the controversy about Christmas in North America, because some people say, well, schools and public places shouldn't be dominated by Christmas trees and church events and Christmas holiday decorations because that excludes all the other people who are not Christian. That's not necessarily something I believe. I don't think Christmas should only be a private thing, but there is this discussion out there. It's been around since I was young, that Christmas maybe shouldn't be so dominant in terms of how it takes over an entire society during a certain season, because it excludes other cultures and religions. That's one way to talk about Christmas. Another way to talk about Christmas is to talk about where Christmas comes from, as we did with the origin of things. It's a little bit more complicated than you think. It's about Jesus' birthday, but the date of Christmas actually coincides with a Roman holiday, Roman festival that was celebrated on winter solstice, the shortest day of the year, and that was called Saturnalia, which was named after the god Saturn, the father of Zeus. And the process of Christmas evolving into anything that we resemble now started way back then, and it was when the Roman Empire absorbed Christianity and it became the official religion of the empire, that in order to accommodate all of these different types of religions, and especially the Roman traditions, that the particular Christmas holiday and the holy day in the church was placed on December 25th. Nobody actually knows what day Jesus was born, because of course it was kind of a secret. Only a few people, some shepherds and wise men, saw him born, and he wasn't. He's like one of those people that was, just not a famous boy until he became older. Except for that story, his childhood wasn't really carefully recorded or anything, and he didn't like writing anything down. So we don't really know exactly when Jesus was born. So the evolution of Christmas is quite fascinating. You could talk about how people celebrated Christmas, because that's pretty shocking as well. One of the reasons the Puritans, we will talk about this in British and American culture, one of the reasons that the Puritans really disliked Christmas was because they thought it was too much partying, and that Christmas was an excuse to do excessive things like drinking and dancing and playing and singing, which Puritan people do not like. So they would rather just treat it like a regular day and just work right through it. Whereas the large majority of English people especially were always looking forward to this as the biggest festival party of the year. But there was a certain group of people that tried to cancel Christmas for a brief time about 350 years ago. So all these angles can be taken. You can talk about, I think Christmas is a bad idea because I'm talking about it too much. But you can easily do this with other holidays too. They change over the years, especially if they're multinational, right? So you could talk about what Christmas is like in Australia, because you can introduce Christmas as a certain event that has a certain tradition, but quickly swing towards how does Australia celebrate Christmas as opposed to the countries where the Northern European tradition developed with the trees and the snow and all the songs and everything. They don't transport down to the beach the same way just because of the nature of the climate. So see, I've already gave you more than several examples. The commercialization of Christmas at the beginning, a lot of New Englanders and Americans were totally against having Christmas as a holiday at all. But in the last 100 years, it's turned into the biggest shopping event of the year. Everybody starts getting ready for Christmas 2 months ahead. There's Black Friday, it's Christmas parties, there's sales, there's people are going to restaurants and buying everything they can for everyone. And it became a very commercialized holiday, which obviously its original purpose was to have a religious, to celebrate a religious event in a much more serious spiritual sense. And that those parts still exist. You can still talk about the spirit of Christmas, and the real spirit of Christmas is generosity and charity and helping people. As you can see, I've had a lot of Christmases, and my father is also a minister. So I have a lot of different perspectives on Christmas. So take any holiday, doesn't matter what country it's from, but like I said, if it's from your own country, be careful that you explain the vocabulary you use. And I'll briefly review what I want you to do next week in next week's video lecture, but I think it should be straightforward. You choose a holiday, a celebration of a holiday at the beginning of page 65. Go through, pre-write. Don't worry about the partner stuff. Pre-write and write what you do first. Put something in order. Fill out the outline and then write your paragraph. It's just a really short process. Just 1 page, 65. So I want that too. Okay? You can send that to me anytime up until the 2 weeks from now. So that's what you got for homework, okay? So just to remind you, again, this will be posted on the website. You're doing page 60 and 61 in the textbook. And then you have to fill out page 65 by typing on your computer is fine. Fill out how you prepared for your paragraph. And then you have to actually write the paragraph and take an angle, take a perspective, analyze, criticize what's going on with the holiday. Okay? Now, the page 60 and 61 are due next week, and page 65 and the final paragraph are due the next week, 2 weeks from now. Okay? Thank you for all of your assignments. I actually enjoyed reading some of the interesting and strange whole foods that I've never heard of before. And I enjoy reading those things because you are also teaching me. So have a great day. I apologize that we're doing this on Thursday instead of Tuesday, but we'll just call it a Chuseok hangover. Things got delayed a little bit, and we're back on track. So I will see you again next Tuesday. And just remember, I would like this homework, just page 60 and 61, I would like you to complete it over the weekend. Thank you very much. Have a good day.